Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we will be talking about the highest damage dealing characters in Genshin Impact.
In Genshin Impact, including characters with high DPS potential in your party is crucial for efficient gameplay and reducing grinding time. Noelle, despite being known for her healing abilities, can be a main DPS character due to her wide range of geo damage and high defense stat. DPS characters like Lenny, Farina, and Hu Tao offer powerful elemental abilities and are considered some of the best in their respective elements. Once players get past the bliss of the anime world spliced with the breath of the wild gameplay formula, then it becomes readily apparent what kind of game Genshin Impact really is. Like most mobile RPGs, it involves a lot of grinding, and while it has an amount of in-game resources to keep track of, the most important will always be the player's time. We take a look at the age, height, birthday, and background of all Genshin Impact's playable characters, including the new Sumeru inhabitants. When it comes to shortening the amount of time spent on grinding in Genshin Impact, DPS is always the most important factor, as such, including characters in. Besides, these characters give players a sense of power and strength. For the record, these characters were officially designated as DPS by the developers themselves. So put down those pitchforks and torches, pretty please. Noelle deserves a spot as a main DPS despite being reduced down to her healing abilities by nearly everyone, though her ability to heal is also a big reason she's amazing. Her elemental burst can trigger a wide range of geo damage from her normal attacks, allowing you to build on moves instead of just rotating between them as the cooldowns end. She also offers a high defense stat even without building her up, so enhancing this is the frosting on the defensive cake. You can build up her elemental skill to raise how much HP she regenerates, but even if you don't, this move will give everyone in your party some of their health back as she continues to attack, which is a clear advantage over your enemies. Even though she tends to be used as a support character, it is worth building her as a DPS, even if it's just to back up your main. Shikanoin Haizu. Shikanoin Haizu was first released alongside Kazuha's rerun, but his abilities made him stand out. As a catalyst user, he can deal constant anemo damage to the enemies along with burst damage from his elemental skill and burst. Anemo is a great element since you can trigger the swirl reaction with it. This reaction can help you reduce the opponent's raise if you have the viridescent veneer set. Overall, Haizu can dish out a good amount of damage regularly if you pair him with the right characters. Kaya. Kaya is a strong cryo character with shorter cooldown periods for his attacks, making his ability to stay on the field fighting one of his best attributes. He also offers a strong normal attack, so you can deal a lot of damage while using little energy. Kaya is also one of a handful of characters that gain elemental skill damage multipliers easily and with higher impact. Unfortunately, his elemental skill does have a short AoE, so his speed and short cooldown period are needed to balance this out. A common complaint is that his constellations are harder to obtain compared to a lot of other characters, and while this is true, his basic stats are strong and easy to build with artifacts, which makes him a good DPS for anyone, but a great main DPS if you're a casual player or new to the game. Dillik. The fabled Dillik is currently considered the simplest DPS available by the community. That's because Diluc's pyro damage stacks easily and hits like a train multiple times, making it great against swarms of enemies or bosses. With time, multiple claymores have been released in the game that caters to his abilities. His elemental burst, he unleashes a fire phoenix that keeps pushing into enemies, damaging them until it explodes. His elemental skill can also be used thrice before it enters a short cooldown. The only problem is that his burst pushes the enemies away from you, and that's the last thing you want while using a close-range character. Tartaglia. The first Harbinger to be released as a playable character, Tartaglia is one of hoyoverse's favorites. He has the highest number of reruns among all the characters, and he even got a signature bow with his first rerun called Polar Star. Ever since the release, Tartaglia's ability to change his weapon has caught everyone's attention. After activating his elemental skill, he will switch his weapon to dual blades that can attack the enemies in quick succession. Along with his Riptide effect, he is one of the best hydro applicators in the game. However, the cooldown of his skill has slowly brought him down in DPS ranking. Zhongling. At the start of the game, Zhongling was rated as one of the mediocre characters by the Genshin community. With time, her true potential was realized and she became one of the best off-field damage dealers in the game. Her Pyronado can deal a huge amount of damage, especially if you build her on Elemental Mastery with the Vaporized team. Moreover, it seems like every single polar being released in the game can be used by jungling in some way. This is because she works with most stats like Energy Recharge, Elemental Mastery, ATK%, Crit Rate, and Crit DMG. Since you can also get a free copy of jungling from the Spiral Abyss, she's great for beginners as well. Kamisato Ayato. Hoyoverse did a lot of teasing before releasing Kamisato Ayato in the game, because they knew that his design and abilities would attract a lot of players. Ayato is one of the two siblings from the Kamisato clan who control the Yashiro Commission. Both his elemental skill and burst are great applicators of the Hydro element. Very thing you need to know to properly play as Kamisato Ayato in Genshin Impact. After activating his elemental skill, you can constantly deal AoE Hydro damage in front that can be doubled with Vaporized reaction. His kit also paves the way for him to be an integral part of a freeze team. With a short cooldown, he is great for open world exploration. Tighnari. Tighnari was the first 5-star Dendro character released in Genshin Impact, and he was added to the standard banner roster later. This means that you can get Tighnari at any point by wishing on the standard banner, or if you lose your 50/50ths on the limited banner. Once again, his elemental skill gives him a buff for a few seconds. His damage gets even better in a spread reaction team. Nilou. Nilou is a dancer who has a major role in Sumeru's Archon quest, and she has quite a unique kit. While she doesn't deal a lot of Hydro damage through her skill or burst, her special bloom ability is what makes her one of the best DPS. After using her elemental skill, Nilou applies an effect to all her party members. This effect occurs if your party has Dendro and Hydro characters only, and it deals extra damage from the cores generated after triggering the bloom reaction. She can easily delete a horde of enemies if you pair her correctly, but her passives also make her quite a niche character, and you have to build the whole team around her. Cyno. Elemental Mastery has been Hoyoverse's favorite stat when it comes to Sumeru characters. The entire Quicken, Aggravate, and Spread reactions are based around M, and it's the same for Cyno's abilities. Whenever you activate his Elemental Burst, you can deal Electro DMG in quick succession. Here is everything you need to know about Cyno's team compositions that suit his playstyle in Genshin Impact. His main damage output comes from using your elemental skill at the correct time during your burst. Almost all of his damage during the elemental burst increases based on his EM after getting the authority over the 9 bows passive. Kuchin. Kuching is one of the characters that can be acquired through the standard banner. Her elemental skill shoots out a stiletto that damages enemies within a small AoE, and you can blink to the stiletto and perform another AoE attack. After blinking, your weapon gains Electro Infusion for a few seconds. With time, she went down in the ranking of best DPS, but the introduction to the Aggravate reaction brought her right back up. If you put this character with a few good Dendro applicators, she'll delete all the surrounding enemies. She performs the best against a horde of smaller enemies. Yoimiya. Yoimiya was one of the most troubled releases for Genshin Impact, as a lot of the players critiqued her playstyle focus. On one hand, her elemental skill focuses on enhancing her pyro damage. On the other hand, her elemental burst is more or less a support ability for the party. However, people quickly discovered the power of Yoimiya with the Shimenawa's Reminiscence artifact set, and she quickly became one of the best characters to fight boss enemies. Moreover, you won't have to pull Amber out for every pyro torch puzzle when you have this character, Nahida. Ever since Sumeru's first teaser, players have been excited about the release of the 4th Archon. Nahida was released as a playable character with a unique skill set that provided off-field Dendro damage. Her elemental skill can be used to deal Dendro damage and bind a bunch of opponents together. Here's everything you need to know if you're planning to build the tiny and adorable Archon Nahida in Genshin Impact. Whenever an elemental reaction occurs on any of these opponents, this mark will deal Dendro damage to all of them. Moreover, her elemental burst can buff the skill in different ways based on the elements of your party members. This little Archon gave way to a new style of building your teams. Arataki Ito. It's about time Genshin Impact introduced a 5-star Geo character that focuses on DPS. In that regard, Arataki Ito slaps both literally and figuratively. He can unleash tons of Geo damage in quick succession using his abilities. Moreover, he easily synergizes with Geo characters for that sweet resonance. While he gets his signature weapon, he can also use one of the free-to-play friendly weapons and still produce good damage. He is also one of the few characters that excel in the mono team of the element he belongs to. Yae Miko, the fox envoy living at the Grand Narukami Shrine. Yae Miko has a close relationship with Inazuma's Archon. Much like other Electro characters in the game, the Dendro element has increased her damage immensely. Using her elemental skill, you can drop 3 Kitsune on the battlefield that will deal constant Electro DMG. If you trigger her elemental burst with the maximum Kitsune on the field, she will send for lightning strikes to destroy the enemies. The short cooldown of her abilities makes her a great character for open world exploration, and the beautiful animations of this character add to the overall attraction. Wanderer. The second harbinger to join the playable character roster of Genshin Impact, Wanderer has had quite a history in the main story. Much like his personality, his kit is quite self-centered and brings him to the center of attention. His elemental skill lets him hover over the ground and buffs his Anemo DMG. Wanderer is one of the most unique and fun characters in Genshin Impact, and here's everything you need to know about his best builds. The best thing about Wanderer is that his normal attacks deal a good amount of damage even without any buffs. Moreover, you can use him as the main DPS or as a carrier of reaction with a few off-field applicators. Firuzan can also greatly buff Wanderer's damage, making him even stronger. Yelan. Yelan is capable of outrageously high damage as an off-field DPS. Her elemental burst, which functions in a much more advanced and powerful way than Shinkui's burst, has consistent off-field Herdo application in excellent damage numbers. Her damage scales off of her HP stat, which is excellent if you have to hydro units in a party for the resonance. Her damage scales off of her HP stat, which is excellent if you have to hydro units in a party for the resonance. Yelan's elemental skill is also fun to use, letting her run around at high speed and hit multiple enemies at once. ABC. Pair her in a vaporized team comp with Hu Tao or another pyro main DPS like Yoimiya and watch the damage rack up. Eula. At the moment, Eula still holds the current highest record for the single biggest attack damage done in Genshin Impact. In the right configuration, she can dish out a jaw-dropping 6 million points of physical damage. This does happen in 1 second, and is debatable whether it counts as DPS or not, but one thing is for certain, anyone who gets hit by that and doesn't have a shield is going down. While you shouldn't expect your typical Eula to deal that much damage, she is still the best physical DPS in the game. Even with little resource investment in her weapon and artifacts, you can easily deal over 100,000 damage with her elemental burst. New Villette. If you're up to date on the main story of Genshin Impact, you've probably already fallen in love with New Villette's character. He's the Chief Justice of Fontaine who oversees every case and provides his judgment. New Villette is a 5-star Hydro character who scales on HP, and we already know how HP scaling Hydro characters perform from Yelan. The only problem with this character is that you have to trigger 3 different Hydro-based reactions for him to deal the most charged attack damage, which prevents you from running double Hydro for the resonance. However, you can deal quite a lot of damage even without the resonance. Raiden Shogun. The Electro Archon is by far the scariest god in Genshin Impact. She also has quite a unique kit as her entire damage depends on her party members. Whenever you use the elemental skill or burst of her team members, Raiden Shogun gains resolve stacks that are shown behind your active character. Here are our recommendations on the best build for Raiden Shogun in Genshin Impact. When she unleashes her elemental burst with one of the most intimidating animations in the game, she deals huge damage once and gains electro infusion for a few seconds. All her resolve stacks are consumed upon triggering the burst, and it increases the damage dealt. She also buffs her party members' damage through her elemental skill. That's it for now, thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video. Every blessings.